I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is season 7, episode 8 of the Beer and Broadband podcast, slated to come out on May 20th, 2024. And we're going to do another cocktail thing today because why not? Uh, Talk about some other like good topics. Hopefully, nothing about ads. Did I get anything about ads? No, I did not put anything about ads on this one. Last week's was all about ads, and then we got another one coming up that's going to be all about ads. So this one, not about ads. But we are going to start with the Tropical Whiskey Sunrise. A little bit more in my wheelhouse instead of Ricky's. But I'm going to let Ricky taste it while I talk about it. So this is pineapple juice, orange juice, lime juice, and it's just a little bit of lime juice with some grenadine and some whiskey. I used Old Forester in this. You could use, whatever it is that you want, but some sort of bourbon. And it's supposed to be kind of like a tropical fruity drink that you'd have like in the summer that might be a little bit different from a rum drink. Last time we did a riff on the Manhattan with rum, which normally a Manhattan has whiskey. This time we're doing a tropical fruity drink, which normally has rum in it, but instead it's got whiskey. So, Ricky, I'll let you give us some thoughts on your drink.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'll say I think this is a take on the tequila sunrise with
It is
the
definitely.
kind of gritty thing on. Yeah, which that'll be
Yeah.
a tequila drink, but it's good. I kind of actually like it a little bit more than tequila sunrise, though. As we talked about before, I love rum drinks. I kind of like those tiki style drinks. I normally make them a little bit less sweet than they say in the recipe, but I would absolutely swap out the grenadine in this for maybe like a little bit of coconut cream or something like that.
I
Um,
could see that. I could
it's very
definitely see
good the
that.
way this is, but I think this is one of those things, just like a regular tequila sunrise. You can customize them a lot. Like a traditional tequila sunrise doesn't have the lime juice in it. I think the lime juice is a really good addition.
Hmm.
The tequila sunrise is a little flat when all it is just orange juice. Pineapple juice really helps. But normally when I'm already doing pineapple, lime, and orange, I'm also like thinking coconut.
I agree.
Overall, it's good.
I think what I would do is I'd add like an ounce or a half an ounce of coconut cream to this and like basically make like a whiskey daiquiri instead of a rum daiquiri.
Hmm.
And I like it. I like it a lot. I've made plenty of Tennessee sunrises before, which are just basically orange juice, grenadine, and some sort of whiskey. I've done it with scotch, and that adds like a little bit of a smoky flavor to it. I think this is my go-to mix for that though, because it's the pineapple juice adds a the pineapple juice plus the lime juice add a special kind of flavor to it. The grenadine, I could even cut it in half, like a fourth of an ounce, just for the color, because
Yeah.
the red and orange mix, the float of orange and red is like really nice. So like I think you need the grenadine in there for the color, but you could also do like, well, no, you couldn't because it wouldn't float to the bottom. I was gonna say you could do some red food dye, but that would like float at the top. Um, and really you want it to like go to the bottom and then like create that layer effect that you get with the
Yeah.
orange juice and the grenadine. So I think you still need it. You just don't need necessarily as much. Maybe a
Yeah,
bar
I think
sweetener.
visually it does a lot. I'm not sure
Yeah.
flavor wise it might be a little too sweet for me.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
yeah.
You don't need it for the flavor. You need it for the visual effect because I mean, part of a cocktail is the way it looks, right? Even though I don't always garnish mine, like I still try to make them look right, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So like, if you're a person that doesn't want it as sweet, just cut it down to like a bar spoon or a quarter of an ounce instead of half an ounce, and that should make for a much less sweet drink because it's already pretty sweet as it is, right?
Yeah, with all that juice, you don't really need to add too much more to it.
Yeah. But the coconut cream, I want to do this. So what we need to do is we need to come back and do the modified Black Manhattan, the Campari or Negroni, whatever, and this modified with coconut cream and less grenadine and see how
Hmm.
that kind of like shakes out. I think both will be good that way. Um, I'll make up the cocktail list and see how it works out. But anyways, is this something that someone should, if they like tropical drinks, should they try this?
Yeah, I think if you're on the sweeter drink side, especially if you're one of those people that likes like juice in their cocktails, this will be right up your alley.
Yeah, I'm thinking about making one for. You should definitely make one for Alice, but I'm thinking about making one for Venus. I think she'll love
Hmm.
this. I think she will be like, "This is right up my alley."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think she would. And I also think this one's also a lot more customizable. Like I don't want to be that guy, but tequilas outside of their class don't taste that much different.
Oh man, shut your mouth!
Like,
I can tell a big difference between tequilas.
well, not outside their class though. At least not to me. Like, it's the same thing. Like as you age them, like those aged ones are, maybe a bit more distinct based on how much you're charring the barrel and everything like that. But especially since most of these are made with a new tequila, I forget what that's called. It's the same thing as like a white rum. White rums
Yeah,
don't taste that different between each other. There's a little
the
bit,
silver
and if
silver tequila is what you're talking about. The
yeah, and
reposado.
well, yeah, the silver is what the people that don't speak Spanish call them. There's
Yeah,
like an actual name. Um,
reposado was the
yeah,
rapid
yeah, something like
tequila.
that.
The new the fresh tequila.
Yeah, yeah. That once you throw all the juice in there and everything, it is kind of hard to tell the difference. Even in
Right.
rum drinks that do the same formula, it's pretty hard to tell the difference. And rums vary a lot more than tequilas do. But that's a lot comes down to the what sugars you're using and stuff like that. And even then, you basically have what are kind of like clean rums and funky
Mhm.
rums. And even then, it's not massive. But you're throwing whiskey into something. There's a lot of different types of whiskey with very, very different flavor profiles that are often very aggressive.
Yeah.
Rums that are different, but they're not like if you swapped, if you, as long as you kept to kind of the same origin, the same type of rum, they're interchangeable. But you can't just say, hey, grab any two whiskeys. It doesn't matter which ones, and they're going to taste fairly similar. You know, there's a massive difference based on how they're made, how they're aged. We've sat down and talked about that before. We've done
Yeah.
the whatever they were, like the whiskey flights. Every
Yep.
whiskey stands out from each other in a
Yep.
very notable way, in a very powerful way that I think would punch through this juice flavor more. You know,
I see what
so
you're saying. I completely agree with that. I would rather have whiskey than tequila. I in some tequila drinks, there is a huge difference, like say, um, a, a margarita. You know,
mhm,
there is a huge difference between the different types of tequilas that you use in margaritas and the different types of margaritas that you make because they're so variable. Because it's a like basically like a this is like a thing that like if you tried a smoky whiskey with this, it would have a huge impact on the flavor versus
exactly.
just a bourbon versus a rye, which
Yep,
would
it's that.
create a completely different set of notes.
Exactly. It's how powerful those notes are. That was the better way for me to explain it. Is it's not that these things don't all taste different. It's that is the difference in flavor strong enough to overpower like a cup of juice with extra sugar on top.
Yeah, exactly.
It's are we getting to that point that a lot of these like tiki drinks and the juice drinks, you taste the alcohol, but those are like tertiary notes. You're mostly tasting all the very tasty things they put in. It's the pineapple and the coconut and the lime and all that. And the alcohol is there to provide the flavor of alcohol,
Right.
not necessarily the oaky notes of this particular one or the smoky notes of that. Most of that gets overwritten. And I know that because when we came back from Vegas with all those different rums, I made the same cocktails with all the different rums and I could sort of tell a difference. enough to pick one that I kind of liked better than the others. But I always couldn't tell the difference between any of them, except the
Yeah.
one Japanese one, which was a whole different style,
Mhm.
you know. So yeah, I think this is a good combo, and I think if you're somebody who likes this type of drink, and maybe you like whiskey like I do, but you only really drink whiskey and one or two things where it can stand out more, this might be something to add to the repertoire. 'Cause I think this could work.
Yeah, and I think that this would be a fun thing to play with. Like, let's put some scotch in it instead of bourbon. Let's
Hmm.
put some rye in it instead of bourbon. Let's put like maybe um, a Kentucky mash versus a like Tennessee,
Hmm.
kind of whiskey and see what happens. Or Texas whiskey versus a Tennessee whiskey, or a Japanese whiskey versus a Scotch, because those things are all kind of the same, like mash bills overall. So I think that would be fun. Well, let's get right into our topics for today. And this one, I'm not going to tell you what website, but scraping a website may be legal for now. So, did you read the article, Ricky?
I did read the article, and I read the
Okay.
prompt, and I thought to myself, I was pretty sure as long as it's a publicly available website, that's kind of been undisputed that that's legal. I know some of the social media stuff now is trying to go against it, but I'm like, learning how to make a web scraper is like early level learning how to program. Like,
This is
it's a great
true.
way to teach people the idea of taking data from other systems. It's like, here's a website, you can pull the text off the website. I mean, one of the first things I ever made for work was a scraper that would pull the configuration off that old configuration website.
Yep, that's very
You know,
true.
it was just a proof of concept to show it could be done. But like, yeah, if you're posting something to the internet, unless it's like behind some sort of paywall or something like that, or like, it's images, or if you're like trying to resell it as your own or something, that stuff's just all open.
So let me give you a little background here. So basically, X, which used to be Twitter,
Hmm.
the website formerly known as Twitter,
Yep.
um, was like, I'm gonna like sue this guy for scraping our website because all that data that we have should be monetized by us. But on top of that, all the news websites that are out there that are struggling in the modern age because nobody wants to get, you know, paper media anymore. Um, those places are also saying you should pay us. So it's basically the same thing. Um, if you go to our website and it's freely available, you should be paying us even though it's freely available because this is our website. You shouldn't be scraping this. This is our work. This is the thing that we've done. The difference is between the news and X is that, and I hate calling it X, the website formerly known as Twitter, is that that website has user generated content. So
Yeah.
half the time they're pulling it off of other sources to like repost onto that website. But according to them, that is somehow novel and makes it like a special thing that you should have to pay for to be able to get that. Reddit does the same thing. So this isn't really just a topic about them. This is a topic about all these like message boards and social media websites claiming that there's something more than they aren't,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly. Yeah, this is the same problem people had with the Reddit API changes. Granted, those were a little bit more extreme because it was also affecting
Mhm.
people's ability to use tools. Like it wasn't taking the content. But like, yeah, I mean, it's user generated content. You don't own any of it. I mean, I know you try to claim that, but you don't. A user can post anything anywhere they want. And I know that makes those platforms hard to monetize. They are hard to monetize. Most of what you're selling is just people data. And that's becoming not really as lucrative as it used to be because there's more people doing it. There's better people doing it. you know? So, I mean, I understand the want of the company. Like, I understand why X wants to be able to say, hey, you have to pay for our APIs. You can't just scrape our information. We got to get something out of it. But sorry, that's just not how it works, you
No,
know?
it's not. It's not how it works at all. So I think that eventually one of these social media companies is going to be able to convince someone that is how it works though. And then a basic function like being able to scrape the internet for open data is going to be gone. And that's going to become a problem where it makes the internet not the internet anymore. It's just like bastions of information that you have to pay to get into, essentially. Um, and not places where you're really getting the data that you should because it was put out there to be freely open, you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Because where this is going to lead to me is, let's say somebody does win. X wins and says, hey, this data that I have, we're going to say Joe's tweets. Joe's tweets are now protected information. You can't just steal them off of my website. You, Joe, are now a content creator for X who now has, as proven in court, generating financial revenue off of your content. And then that switches real quick to it's like, okay, how are you compensating Joe then? Joe's data is so valuable that you have some copyrighted ownership to it, but Joe made it. So he's also got rights to it. How are you compensating Joe?
So I see that, and I think much like what YouTube has done, Twitter will do, or any of these other websites will do completely the opposite of. YouTube compensates in some small way, right? But other websites like TikTok, for instance, or Snapchat or something, is like the way that you get compensated is by finding sponsors. And quit bugging me, kid. They don't actually give compensation back generally for anything except for like the very top creators. And like they would have a scheme where they would say, yeah, it's valuable, but it's not valuable enough for us to pay for it until it gets to this point. These are the real valuable ones. And so this is the stuff we're trying to protect. We don't care about that. And I think that's what model it would end up being. And yes, some people would get compensated for it, but not a lot of people would. Which is even a smaller number than what like something like YouTube does or something like that. But I get
Maybe,
I get your
yeah.
point.
I mean, I know if we like take TikTok for example, I don't know how big the reward is, but this was like part of an episode we did just a little while ago that TikTok pays on a per certain number of views,
Yeah, they do.
and they pay for your number of followers and stuff like that. TikTok rewards pretty well. Again, I don't know what the rewards are. I don't know if it's merchandise or if it's actual money, exactly how that works.
No,
Because I
it's
know,
money, but it's really like it rewards, and the rewards you get are fairly good, but you have to be one of the like top tier of creators to be able to get that. It's not like just anyone gets it. Like once you hit a certain threshold, you get that. YouTube works the same way, but the threshold is much lower for you to start getting payouts from them. Like TikTok's like
yeah,
the top 5% or 10% or something like that. I forget what the exact
that
number.
just might come down to how people consume the data. Because I pulled it up here. That's one actually the fun things when we do this remote is I can do research while talking about it. Is to cut it down. There's a lot of stuff about your account has to be in good standing and stuff. But it just comes down to 10,000 followers, 100,000 video views a month, and it's original content. And it's not like something you're restreaming, which I mean, hey, 10,000 followers, not easy, But if you're a type of person that's generating the type of content that would actually be making them money, 10,000, I don't believe would be that hard to get. I've not seen many TikToks, but I mean, people that are just making little meme videos have 10,000 or more. So I think,
So
it comes to that direction, They
yeah,
use, let's just say for Twitter.
it's roughly 10% of the TikTok influencers that actually are able to earn anything from it.
Yeah, which I mean, that's pretty good when you consider that number also is all those people who are signed up for TikTok that don't really make videos or make
Right.
those little tiny ones. 10% of YouTube's people making YouTube
No,
videos don't
this
have
is people that are
monetization.
actual like people that are considered influencers, not people that are just signed up for accounts. This is people who are sending out like stuff. So out of the 50% of people that get any sort of payout, only 10% of them make over a threshold that would be considered any sort of wage where they get anything. And I think that's like $15,000. Everybody else makes less than $15,000. um,
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's my point then. Is if we're going to switch to a model where we're saying scraping websites is not legal, do you think that every website in the world is going to be just suddenly okay with, all right, almost 10% of my users are going to be making money. I'm going to have to start cutting checks to everybody.
yeah. Oh, I don't think that. I don't think that they would be, but I think that they would follow the model more like what some of these other influencers pay out websites have done, or like video streaming or influencer creator type um, platforms have done. I mean, Reddit doesn't pay anybody anything, and they
Yeah,
completely
but if
rely
scraping
on.
became illegal, they'd have to. That's what I'm getting. I'm more getting at the scraping becomes a thing that you're not allowed to do anymore. That's just never going to happen because then suddenly the legality of everything gets really, really, really expensive. What's more likely to happen is that the kind of technologies that we already have, because X and all these other people already try and put stuff on their websites that make it difficult to scrape them. Those will have some breakthrough and they'll make it through. But I don't think we're ever going to live in a world where we just say, hey, you can't scrape it, data off the internet. Because one, as we already talked, that's going to get real weird then with who actually owns the content. Two, well, just say goodbye to AI. You know, all these large language models people are working on, just literally the way they train them is they scrape data off the internet. It wouldn't be a big deal for the small targeted bots that are, you're training for one particular task. But Chat GPT couldn't have existed if you can't scrape data off the internet. You know, I can definitely see your point. This is going to be something that crappy companies are going to keep fighting tooth and nail because they want to monetize everything, even if it doesn't belong to them. But the actual you're not allowed to share information on the internet, someone always owns it. It I don't think we'll hit that. I think we're way more likely to have other problems on the internet where like all just data privacy is gone. And you have there's been talk of like you couldn't be anonymous on the internet anymore. Like when you signed up for internet, you had to have like an ID that you logged into the internet with and things like that. I think
Yeah,
that's way more likely to be something that kind of quote unquote kills the internet than data scraping.
yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I guess my previous statement sounded more like it's going to kill the internet. I think more what I was saying is if that future comes about, which it is very possible that one of the wealthiest people in the world could push to have that happen, if that future comes about, then the internet goes from a place where everyone exchanges data um, in a way that is generally mutually beneficial to bastions of information that you have to go to and then pay to get into in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So that hurts computer science. That hurts things like AI and stuff like that. Well, and I don't necessarily know if that's good or bad. You know, is it bad? I don't know.
Yeah,
Did
well, I'll say, to that end and that phrasing of it, you know, some of the most painful parts of that have already happened. I mean, like
Yeah.
if you go look at medical research or just really almost any scientific research, they're all gatekept behind these publishing journals, which, these researchers are not allowed to sell their papers once they've been peer reviewed and published. You're paying $15 an article, 50, $100 a month. The researchers don't see any of that. In fact, a lot of times you can email a researcher, they're allowed to give them away for free, just not on the internet most of the times. So you could just, if you saw some great study and you wanted to see it, you can often email the university, they'll provide you a copy of it. But why does that cost $100 a month if the occasional person wants to read a research paper? You know, kind of like your thing on the news. Why is every news site in the world, hey, you got to pay us? Now, granted, the quality of news has gone way down because they're generating clicks and stuff like that. The era of every morning you got maybe the 20 most important events that had happened in the world the day before. That's kind of gone.
Yeah.
And the places that have it left don't allow discussion. It's crazy, because I keep up with the elections and stuff. I like to talk about politics. You can't find a news website nowadays that has a comment section. They're going to post what they want to post, and there's no room for anyone to discuss it. They'll turn. I don't know if it was like a locked post or how it worked. I saw like an X thread, a Twitter thread, that had the article in it that wasn't allowing comments.
Yeah.
It's that's kind of what's the point of the internet. That's why that was the drive to go to news-based websites, was we had all of the news, not just today's news, but all the past news as well, and you could talk on it.
Yep. You could see it, you could discuss things, but because some bad people would get on there and like say things or post things that were nefarious, they started shutting that stuff down, and then people with special interest use that to be able to do things that weren't good
Yeah.
or
Well, the
kept
the
things
biggest
open.
problem, and this is just a problem the internet has. I don't like the way it gets run, where basically if somebody does something illegal on your website, even if you weren't the one doing it, it just happened on your website, you are a lot of times held partially liable for it. Like if you have a forum and one of the users goes through and posts some like fake phishing account, hey, go check out my Facebook post, and someone gets their Facebook stolen and their identity stolen off of that, you as the website owner are held not responsible for the identity self itself, but you're basically responsible for that it happened. And that's a big problem we have on the internet, is that it's hard to have those big open forums where people can talk, when if somebody says something that's not okay or posts content that's not okay. And in America we've got really good freedom of speech laws, but it doesn't cover everything. It certainly doesn't cover malicious stuff, like you're posting links or you're posting like pornography in a place pornography is not allowed to be. That gets websites shut down.
Yeah, yeah,
And not
yeah,
saying that's what happened to CNN and Fox News. They probably were a little bit more voluntary about it, but that killed a lot of the community in the internet. Is when,
yeah,
like, oh hey, I'm hosting a website that's maybe a forum about something, and some people don't like it. Like, let's say you were running a website about the Holocaust or something like that, right? And you got your data centers in Germany, and it's like a memorials or like information about things like that. But you allow a forum section, and then somebody in that forum section posts, "Oh, the Holocaust isn't real. That didn't really happen." Well, that guy's an idiot, and
yeah.
also that's illegal to say in
Mhm.
Germany.
Yep.
So now your website has illegal content posted on it. Now they can come after you for damages. They can shut your website down. They can sue you. They can fine you. That's something I think we handle really poorly. If we had a better way, if we actually just hunted down these people doing the bad things, and we're just saying, unless you're running a website that is massively that content, You know, if you're running a fisher's website and it's full of tools on how to set up phishing scams for people, sure, yeah, blow that out of the way. That person's liable. They're running something illegal, you know. But it's almost like switch it around. And maybe this is in real life. You're in law enforcement. You can tell me. Maybe I'm ignorant to it. But this almost feels like someone owns an apartment complex, and then somebody in that apartment complex gets busted for marijuana, just like having it on them, not growing it. And it's just like, okay, yep, well, now let's go arrest the landlord because he had a tenant who did something illegal on the property.
Yeah, so it depends on what sort of property is and a couple other things like that. But generally, you wouldn't arrest a landlord. You wouldn't make some sort of action against the person who owns the property because someone does something illegal that's renting from them.
Yeah.
But there are some special instances where that is um, a legal issue that the person that owns the place would be liable for. So, you know,
Yeah, so it's I don't know, complicated topic, but that's
it
my
is.
that's my side rant for this episode. I always get off on another topic. But yeah, internet's not what it used to be. Maybe for better
It
or worse.
is.
People are gonna have different thoughts about that.
It is not. I think in some places it's improved, in some places it's gotten worse. In this particular topic, I think it's just another area where the rich and powerful are able to do some things that affect like people that aren't so rich and powerful, just because they see it as they're not beholden to the same rules that the rest of us are, which is problematic, right? But there's nothing we can really do about it. However, it is true. you know, um, I don't know. Did you have anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think I'm good on that one.
All right. Well, then we had two other topics. We're going to skip those for today, and we're going to put those in the next episode because I think we've hit our time limit. So, um, this has been season 7, episode 8 of the Beer and Broadband podcast, slated to come out on May 20th, 2024. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Have a nice day.